Day went wrong before breakfast, which was impressive because there hadn't been time for breakfast. My medkit chimed at me for the third time, offended that I was ignoring its polite suggestions to retreat, and I told it to shut up because it didn't have legs. The battlefield had decided to become a blender, and everyone was being very cooperative about falling into it. I kept moving because stopping was how you ended up promoted to memory. "Doc," someone yelled, and I yelled back something reassuring and medically useless. I dragged another body behind cover, patched, sealed, injected, and sent them away with a joke about owing me a drink if the universe didn't explode first. Humor worked better than morphine for morale, and I was generous with it because it was cheaper than therapy. The explosion that flipped my world sideways came from too close to be polite. When my vision settled, I found myself staring at wreckage that very clearly didn't belong to any human vehicle I'd ever complained about. It hummed wrong. It burned wrong. And inside it something, or someone, was still alive, which felt like a personal challenge. I crawled in, ignoring the part of my brain that reminded me I was neither paid nor insured for this. The figure inside looked human enough that my hands moved automatically. Long ears caught the edge of my awareness, filed away under "Ask Later," and I focused on the bleeding, which had opinions about gravity. My scanner spat question marks. I swore at it. It swore back in 3 colors. "Okay," I muttered, working fast. "Good news is you're not dead. Bad news is neither am I, so we're both stuck here." She didn't answer. Most patients didn't. Royalty, I would later learn, were especially bad at small talk while unconscious. The fighting pressed closer. Comms screamed. My medkit suggested 12 different things I couldn't do and one I absolutely shouldn't. I did the one in the middle because that's what medics do. I stabilized her with techniques that would make my professors cry, threw in a joke about malpractice across species, and dragged her into something that used to be a room. When her eyes opened, it was without panic, which was unsettling. She watched me work like she was evaluating a performance. I felt underdressed for the occasion. "Don't move," I said. "Or do. I'm not your boss, yet." Her gaze sharpened. The air felt heavier, like the moment before a verdict. I kept talking because silence was dangerous. "You're safe, temporarily. Define safe however you like." She spoke and my translator lagged, then caught up, then went very quiet, as if embarrassed. "You are a healer." "Doctor," I said, "which is healer plus bad life choices." Another explosion rattled us. I introduced myself out of habit, the way you do when reminding yourself you still exist. I said my name, clear and simple. She went still, not fainting, not freezing, still like the universe had just said her name back. Outside, the war kept going, loud and impatient. Inside that broken room, something old and unfinished took a breath, and I had the uncomfortable feeling that I'd just stepped into the wrong story, and somehow become a footnote history had been waiting for. She didn't move, and I didn't like that kind of stillness. I waved a hand in front of her eyes and said her vitals out loud like that might convince reality to behave. My medkit hummed, which I took as agreement or mild panic. I asked her to blink if she could hear me, then immediately apologized because blinking was apparently beneath her dignity. "You said your name," she said finally, and the translator didn't stutter this time, which somehow made it worse. "Yeah," I said, "I do that sometimes. It helps people yell at me later." Her breathing stayed steady. Mine did not. The sounds of the battle kept interrupting us like an audience that didn't understand this was a private scene. I tried to get back to work because that was safer than thinking. "That name," she said, "it is not random." "None of us are," I said. "Statistically speaking. Also, if this is the part where you tell me I'm cursed, please keep it short. We're on a schedule." She ignored that, royalty again. "Our records speak of it, a human voice, a promise, a failure." Well, that narrows it down to every meeting I've ever attended. She tried to sit up. I stopped her. She let me, which felt like winning an argument against gravity. Outside, someone screamed my call sign. I ignored it. I was very good at ignoring things that wanted immediate answers. "You are not what I expected," she said. "Likewise," I replied. I expected my day to end with noodles. Her mouth twitched. I decided that counted as humor working across species, and I took the win. She spoke again, and this time there was weight behind it, not threat. "Expectation. Your kind once stood with mine before this war, before memory broke." "That happens to us a lot," I said. "We misplace keys, wallets, entire interstellar alliances." The comm unit crackled. Command wanted an update. I told them I was busy not dying. They told me that was not a valid excuse. We compromised by both pretending the other didn't exist. She watched me, calculating in a way that made me feel like a lab result. "If they know who I am," she said, "they will kill us both." "That's rude," I said. "I just met you." I finished another procedure, sealed another problem, and leaned back long enough to feel the ache in my spine complain to upper management. "Here's the thing," I said. "I save lives, yours qualifies. Politics happens to other people." "Politics is happening to you," she said. "Yeah," I admitted. "It usually does." She told me then, quietly, that my name was spoken in her people's oldest oath, tied to a human who chose mercy over victory. A name given as a bridge. A name lost when the bridge burned. I laughed because the alternative was screaming. "So," I said, "no pressure." The building shook. The war knocked again. I picked up my medkit and checked her vitals one more time. "Can you move?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Good," I said. "Because history is about to get very annoyed with us, and I'd hate to face it alone." We moved when the ceiling decided it had done enough holding itself together. I slung her arm over my shoulder, complained loudly about royal treatment, and she corrected my posture with the patience of someone used to command. Outside, every channel screamed mutually exclusive orders, which I took as permission to improvise. I flagged a drone, told it I was requisitioning it for humanitarian stupidity, and it didn't argue because I outranked its common sense. "Your people will fire," she said. "They always do," I said. "Sometimes they even mean it." The drone lifted us into a corridor of chaos, and I opened a channel to command before they could open fire. I said my name again, because apparently that was my new superpower. The Queen leaned in and spoke an oath older than my species, interest in war, and the translators across the battlefield stopped arguing with themselves and went quiet. That silence rolled outward, unsettling and contagious. Someone laughed on the command channel. It was me. "Good news," I said. "Nobody's winning today." The firing slowed, then stopped. The war, which had been very committed to its schedule, found itself awkwardly paused. She addressed them all, human and alien, not as enemies but as parties who had lost the thread and tied a noose instead. She named the human who carried my name before me, the bridge that burned because mercy didn't fit the doctrine of the time. I added commentary when it got too solemn, pointing out that burning bridges was a terrible infrastructure policy. Negotiations began in the way all negotiations do, with shouting, disbelief, and a strong desire to blame someone else. I treated the wounded on both sides while diplomats discovered humility the hard way. The Queen stayed near me not because she needed guarding, but because history apparently liked symmetry. When the ceasefire finally held, I felt something inside me unclench. I had come here to patch holes. I was leaving having helped stitch a scar between stars. The Queen thanked me formally. I told her she still owed me noodles. Weeks later, the war was officially over, replaced by committees and shared memorials. My name was added to records that would outlast me, and I asked them to spell it right. I went back to medicine, because saving lives still mattered more than symbols, but I carried something new with me. The knowledge that sometimes saying your name and standing still long enough to be recognized could change the direction of everything. The universe kept being dangerous. I kept being a doctor, and for once that felt like enough.